really a room full of like-minded people. It's really a blessing. It's been a rough year, and it's only a month, not even a month long yet. So there's a few challenges that the county's going to be facing. Among the legislature, they are trying to bring property tax relief. And by doing that, they've come up with these ideas to cut funding sources for the counties. And that's problematic because the state legislature tells us what we have to do. We have to provide a jail, we have to provide public defenders, we have to provide a prosecutor's office. All these different things cost money. And so when they sit there and tell us, all right, you have to provide all this stuff, but yet we're cutting your funding, that can be problematic. I, for one, am all about property tax relief. I really would like to see something done, but my concern is with the things that have come before the legislature right now, it's not gonna help. If your house goes up in value by $100,000, $200,000, your portion of property taxes are going to go up as well, even if the county took a 0% tax increase. So it's one of those things that the legislature, I think, needs to look at some different things, and I'll be testifying on Thursday before a Senate committee against one of these bills that's coming. So where it's particularly problematic this year is the county is out of space, physical space. Our public defender is shoehorned into a building that is too small. Public Defense Commission, which this is such a much longer than 10-minute conversation about how we got here. But essentially, because of a ACLU lawsuit, Public Defense Commission came down with workload standards. Now we have all these extra public defenders that we didn't have when we rented the space. So we are spending about $10,000 a month to house the public defender between utilities, rent, and travel back and forth to the court system. So this board has decided that building a building would be a good idea. Unfortunately, what we need is way out of our price range. Not only that, but if the legislature again comes back and says, we're cutting your funding, then we're not even gonna have money to build it. A couple different options. Had the building come in more like $15 million, we could have taken the next 3 years and paid cash for it. We could have arranged it to make that happen. But it looks like for a lot less than what we need, we're starting at 18 million. So with that problem, our next step is getting the contractor on board, so we may end up to get a little bit more for our money. The money is the next thing, and I want to ask this body to think about this and give us some input, give us some direction, or at least me. We have a chance to either go out for bond, which we know in Kootenai County how successful those things are, or we have a chance to do something, it's kind of like a lease appropriation. We lease the dirt to a bank, the dirt between the old courthouse and justice system, a justice center, and then they build us a building and we rent it back from them until it's paid off, and then it comes back to the county. If we default and we don't appropriate money 1 year, we're all out. We get kicked out and they sell it or they rent it out or whatever. It's a risky proposition and it costs a lot more money. But if we say that we have to have a building and those are two funding options, to a risky one or a bond, how can I gain support for a bond? So that's kind of what I'm coming to this body for, is to say, think about it, tell me about it. Right now, I'm trying to do an interim fix. I'm trying to get a space for the public defender so they can breathe for a few years and not be under such a time crunch with trying to push a building through. Sir, did you have a question?
The 65,000 square feet at the Kootenai Electric building, is that enough space?
So, having our public defender all the way up in Hayden, when they have to be in court down here, not doable. Plus, the Kootenai Electric building, which is another whole separate conversation, is not going to be vacant for 3 years.
What about the Shopko building? Can we buy that?
My understanding is that the thing owns it. I don't know that we have time right now to go back and forth about other options. I mean, if you want to send me an email or something about that. Right now, I'm just gonna put out a request for proposal for office space for the public defender and just say, our commercial in Kootenai County is becoming less and less, in demand, while our housing is very much in demand. And then that, once again, causes that gap between homeowners footing the bill of all the services and not so much commercial. Okay, Bjorn?
So I'm halfway into a 66-hour audiobook on political corruption.
Ouch.
And what I've been learning, one thing I've been learning is that public entities renting from private entities is a huge, and always has been, huge vector for corruption.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, my instinct would be, no, let's rent it as little as possible. I'd rather have the bond.
Okay, thank you.
Commission, when is this decision going to be made?
Okay, so we're already obligated to $693,000 architectural drawings. That's where we're at right now. And to me, if you're talking an $18 million building, that was enough to say, okay, I can go out on that limb, okay? So the decision is going to happen slowly, and around April, we will know what our funding source is. And then we'll be able to say, okay, we can't afford it based on what the legislature did or didn't do, or we will have to scrap the whole project.
What I would suggest then is we take this up at our next meeting as an actual agenda item.
Okay?
And maybe we can have a little bit more formal discussion about the options that are
Yes.
there. Certainly if there's a bond issue that is the right way to go, the support of this committee would be helpful.
Yeah.
And so I think it's wise to get the folks in this room in the early discussion. So why don't we make that as an agenda item for the next meeting? We don't really have time tonight for everything that's
Yes.
going on. And I know there's a lot of interest, so let's accommodate that.
Okay?
If that'd be all right.
All right, so no more questions?
Is there a quick question? Yes.
So if new housing is such a high demand, is there a way to take funds out of the new building permits to upgrade our infrastructure? And we're dealing with schools, police, fire, justice system. The existing homes that have been around for eons, is it right that their maintenance
Right.
is going up to create new infrastructure?
Short answer is no, there is not enough money, because right now, community development doesn't pay for it itself. It's supplemented by general tax dollars. So we're in the process of raising the fees for all community development stuff. It's still only gonna cover exactly what it costs to provide that service. There's not gonna be an excess to pay for buildings.
And it's illegal to use that money for anything other than community development.
Yeah.
How about we move the DMV and the building department up there to the electric property, and then fully staff the DMV, and you'd have some room here.
And believe it or not, that's on the table. That's on the table. So, once again, it's a 3-year thing, so.
Thank you very much. Thank you.